Death Note, my personal favorite anime and a thrilling, nail-biting, drama-filled experience that I would recommend every single person to go watch right now. Death Note had a very controversial ending, and a lot of people weren't too happy with it. Me personally, I think it was a justified ending, but I would have really loved to see Light win, and I've been thinking about how he could have done so. And in this video, we're going to discuss some of the key mistakes that Light had made that led to his undoing, and we're going to discuss one simple adjustment that Light could have made that would have led to his victory. So, the first and possibly the biggest mistake that Light had made was very early on in the anime when L first began his investigation. He had broadcasted on live TV a decoy, a criminal who was going to be executed the following day, and this person claimed to be L and even had his name displayed right there on TV. So L taunted Kira, and Light wrote his name in the death note immediately, and the decoy died from this right there on the spot on TV. Now, L was able to deduce a lot of information from this experiment, which led to Light becoming a prime suspect very early on in the story. The first thing that L was able to figure out from this is that Kira needs a name and a face to carry out his killings. Number two, he was able to figure out that Kira is potentially a student because all of these killings leading up to this point were being done outside of school hours. And number three, and possibly the most significant, was that Kira lived in the Kanto region of Japan because L was planning on broadcasting this feed in different regions of Japan. He just happened to start with the one that Light lived in. Moving on to the second big mistake Light had made was when Mikami got rid of Demigado. And Light needed a new spokesperson to represent Kira. He chose his old high school girlfriend, Kiyomi. Now, they began to have meetings at a hotel room, which conveniently were only being recorded in audio. Now, Light used this opportunity to his advantage to secretly pass notes to Kiyomi, giving her the names of the victims he wanted her to execute. Now, Light's big mistake here was not leaving the notepads in the same way that they had been prior to his meeting with Kiyomi. Now, Shuichi Azawa, who was a member of the Japanese task force with Light, who was already gaining suspicion of Light being Kira, after Light's meeting with Kiyomi at the hotel room, Shuichi went there and was able to figure out that the notepads were being tampered with. Now, this led to him and the task force working with Nier and leading to Light's eventual defeat. Now, the third, and in my opinion, the biggest mistake, was actually not completely Light's fault, but nonetheless, when Kiyomi was on the verge of potentially being caught with a piece of the Death Note, this obviously inevitably would have been an issue for Light, so he took it upon himself to write her name in his Death Note. Now, the issue here was at the same time, Mikami, who was writing names in a fake Death Note, but seeing the inevitable disaster unfolding with Kiyomi, Mikami took it upon himself to go to the bank and get his real copy of the Death Note from his security deposit box and write her name in it as well. And because he was being watched by Nier and the SPK, they were able to figure out that the copy of the Death Note that Mikami was using was a fake, and that the real copy of the Death Note was at the bank. And because both Light and Mikami wrote her name in their books at a very similar time, Light was not able to figure out that Mikami had went to the bank and got the real book, and that the cops were on to their plan and had figured out that Mikami was using a fake book and switched them, and that the book, the real one, was in the hands of Nier and the SPK. and this is what led to the inevitable disaster at the Yellow Box warehouse. So finally, we're going to move on to the point of the video and discuss what Light could have done to ensure his success over Nier and the SBK. Now, all Light had to do was ensure that Mikami had an extra piece of the Death Note hidden away somewhere. Now, their meeting at the Yellow Box warehouse was very, very critical, and the stakes were very high. And Light should have ensured that everything went well and requested that Mikami bring a piece of the Death Note that he knew for certain was in fact really from the Death Note, because anything could have happened, and I believe that this would have been a very simple and justified precaution to ensure Light Yagami's success. Thank you for watching. If you have a better idea, feel free to leave it in the comments below.